everything that I have done before is now gonna radically change. Because if you can actually generate creative representations through text and AI, then you can do the same thing also for three-dimensional objects like architecture in the very near future. So what I basically started to do is I asked my whole team to explore and retool the whole company. And that's what we've done in the last 3 years. We basically created a ground-up process of absorbing any kind of AI service, software, and technology and introducing it into our daily business on designing buildings. And it has been a radical transformation because everything we do now has nothing to do with the way how we have done it 3 years ago.
The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you're ambitious. But are manual tasks like admin, lead generation, nurturing, and onboarding holding you back from truly scaling your business? Imagine saving dozens of hours every week, freeing you to deepen client relationships and execute high-impact strategy. Our clients aren't just imagining it. They're saving countless hours per week and doubling their revenue within months. We custom-build AI automation systems that eliminate the grind. From effortless lead generation and nurturing to seamless onboarding, we give you back the most valuable resource, your time, so you can focus on building those vital human connections and driving strategic growth. Stop letting repetitive tasks limit your potential. It's time to build a business that works for you, not the other way around. Ready to unlock your true scaling power? Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free AI audit call today to discover how you can save time and double your revenue. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Intelligence Forge YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode.
How AI is transforming architecture from form making to possibility creation. Welcome to the Intelligence Forge. Matthias, we are thrilled to have you here today.
Hey, Emmanuel. I'm very excited to be part of this conversation today.
All right. You've been recognized by Fast Company as one of the top 10 most innovative architects globally. And your firm, Hacking, has been pushing boundaries in how architecture meets algorithm. I just want to say thank you for joining us today. But let's get started by you first introducing yourself. You're wearing multiple hats, founder of Hacking Architecture. Please just tell us a little bit about what's going on in your company, in your own world.
Absolutely. So I started the architecture firm around 19 years ago. I think that 4 years ago, I had one of the high-rises built in New Jersey, and it really felt like I'm at the top of my career because creativity is unreplaceable, and I saw it happening with these kind of buildings. However, in the same year, my friends from the tech world showed me DALL-E, which was the first text-to-image AI that was customer focused. And we played around, and I realized at that moment that everything that I have done before is now gonna radically change. Because if you can actually generate creative representations through text and AI, then you can do the same thing also for three-dimensional objects like architecture in the very near future. So what I basically started to do is I asked my whole team to explore and retool the whole company. And that's what we've done in the last 3 years. We basically created a ground-up process of absorbing any kind of AI service, software, and technology and introducing it into our daily business on designing buildings. And it has been a radical transformation because everything we do now has nothing to do with the way how we have done it 3 years ago.
Wow, interesting. I think we're going to dive deeper into those things that you do the way you do it. Yeah, but for now, I just wanted to ask you, because I saw in your recent post about being featured in France magazine discussing AI and design. But what's the most exciting things in Hacking right now that you really fired up about that you want to share with us? Some success stories, some wins? Because for me, I like to start with success stories.
Yeah, so through the retooling, we were able to also open a lot of different markets for ourselves. That means that we are now creating not just buildings as architecture and interior design, we call it world buildings, where we really can touch every bit and piece of the urban context, the landscape, the interior, the architecture, and even products. And we're doing that now in multiple hotel projects in the Middle East. And we also just got our first commission to design a gigayacht, something that I have never ever considered to do. But because these tools, you can model them into different typologies, we now are able to tackle unusual commissions with the same kind of due diligence that we are used to for buildings. And yeah, I would say that is right now the most exciting thing because it's something I've never done before.
Wow, that's interesting. You designing a yacht. That's really interesting because, not just using your technology to design buildings, but now into something different. I think that's a game changer. And I must say, yeah, congratulations for that. Okay, let's move into the tech world in terms of what you're using. Or you have a reputation of embracing innovation. And I'm curious about the tools that powers your innovation behind the scene. What specific AI tools or technology are you currently using at Hacking to stay competitive? And more importantly, how they are changing the way your team actually work today? I know you've explained the fact that the way you operate today is different from the way you operate 3 years ago, but if you could just go into some specifics, in terms of the tools that you use.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're doing at the beginning of a project, we're using AI to do deep research and positioning for a building. That means we use ChatGPT, Perplexity, the typical tools that we have available, where we can say, when we look into designing an apartment building in Amsterdam, what are typical Amsterdam typologies? What is the way of living for people? We can deep research materiality, construction techniques, and also sentiments. The beauty about these AI tools now, that research that would have taken weeks and months and would have been very difficult, we can now do with incredible speed and also incredible precision. And that is something that we could never really afford and do as architects, to go that deep into the particularities. These kind of tools help us to be much more informed architects to start our design work. Then what we're using is basically Midjourney, would be one of them, where we now prompting the kind of knowledge-based kind of vision that we're looking for. So we actually, ideologically, we're kind of contextual. That means that we're looking for clues within a context like Amsterdam to actually inform the design to move forward to. But it's not about redoing the same designs, actually enriching it with new ideas. And that's also the beauty of what actually AI can do. It can actually combine different things, right? You can say Amsterdam typology, but connect it maybe with the idea of water or the idea of hospitality, asking the right questions. And then these prompts are not just like a single line of a prompt. These are spreadsheets of very complex prompts about dimensions, reality, height, location, and. And then my team is running basically a whole kind of research sequence of hundreds and thousands of different options that are being generated. And then parallel, we're already building a 3D model that sometimes is supported by software, for example, like Spacio, where it helps us to actually understand the restrictions on the site, massing configurations, and also dimensions. And then when these two things are in a good state, then we actually combine them through a next AI, which is called Minimal, where we can then project actually the visionary component with the reality of the site. And then there is a very interesting creative dialogue that we have, where we're changing the massing, and you see how the AI has a reinterpretation with different forms, materialities, and detail specifications to it. So that is a very interactive AI-enhanced design process. And then once we like it, we go to the client, right? We have multiple options for review, and it's a very helpful guiding process. But in that moment, we already spinning off interior designs, which normally you would never do as an architect, right? Because you first have to fix the building, and then you go into all these different spaces. But in one package, we can already show the client, when you do this building, this is the logic of the interior designs. This is the lobby. These are the workspaces. These are the meeting rooms. These are suggestions for the exterior design, for example, for the landscape. So you create a very holistic kind of curation of a conversation with your client. And then in later phases, there are also additional programs that help us from Forma to evaluate light and wind conditions. We look into materiality with AceLab, where we can look into specifications. So almost every different step that we do as architects, we're using AI within. There's not one magical AI that does everything. So you stitch together different kind of programs for different purposes, but all of them give you either way deeper understanding of a site, more creative and flexibility, maybe faster documentation, more emotional visualizations, up to more sustainable choices. So all of them I see actually a great added value for us as architects in the process.
Thank you so much for breaking it down. It means that most of the tools you use definitely are custom made. Am I correct in saying that?
No, the good thing is it's actually all off the shelf. And just our process is custom made. And it's actually kind of funny. I mean, I've seen other people copying our process, and then I see the results, and they're nowhere near to where we are with our kind of more complex process and more diligent process. So yeah, it sounds easier than it is. Everyone can basically use these kind of tools, but it's also then the question how you use it in the end to create the kind of results that we want to meet.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Magic wand question. It's your turn to answer. So here is the magic wand question. If you could instantly improve one thing about Hacking's operations tomorrow, what would that be and why? What's one bottleneck that keeps you up at night that you think you could solve by waving the magic wand?
Good question. I think cost, right, of construction is like a big thing. And we as architects, we have to comply to, of course, a costing plan. And it's not that easy yet to get a very quick feedback on our design decisions that then respond to a costing model. I think that would be a very, very helpful tool, because when you design, right, very quickly the client says like, this looks really expensive, so let's not go there. But if you can say like, look, we already ran the numbers, this is not so substantial in terms of a cost, but it has a great benefit to the design and the operation of the building, then you have the right information available to make better choices for buildings.
All right. So you could wave the magic wand to bring the cost down.
Yeah, or at least have transparency and control it, and then always have creative solutions that are within the bounds of the cost model that, of course, is a reality that you have to comply to at the very end.
All right. Let's dive into something you've been about. This shift, from architect as form makers to curator of possibility. That's a profound transformation, no doubt about that. But when you say AI transforms the architect's role from form maker to curator of possibility, what does that actually looks like in practice? Can you walk us through a recent project where this shift changed the outcome?
Yeah, let's say traditionally, or also how architects are being educated, is like you're the sole creative person to create these incredible buildings, which of course has never really been true, because as an architect, you have also people working with you. It's a very collaborative process, and you already had to have the skill to actually ask the right question, get different design answers, and then basically design the building in the kind of collective and with your team. Now with AI, there is a very powerful new team member involved, and there now it's even more important that you curate the process. You ask the right question, because it's not anymore where you say, here's my building, I want to kink it in here, this kind of facade. You actually tell the AI, I want to have a building that is rooted in the history of New York City. It's a 50-story tower on a plot which is 200 by 400 feet. And it's what we want to bring in, maybe the historic emotional qualities of the Empire State Building, Chrysler Building, and so on. And then I actually gonna give you locations of your prompts, which are your dreams and wishes and ideas for the building. And then it offers you 100,000, 10,000 options that you can look at it. And then you have to be the one who actually evaluates these and says, oh, this one here is promising, let's develop this one further. And you guide the AI basically through different kind of journeys. But you're never the one who actually, and of course you could say like, okay, shave this off and change it. but you also would basically in that process diminish that kind of creative power that you have at hand and let it just run through more options to come up with things that also could really surprise you. And that's, for me, the most exciting thing about the AI process is I know what I want to achieve, and AI gives me different options, and sometimes they're incredibly surprising and really inspiring. And that's why, for me, the transformation is that you're not the sole creative person in the design process. You now have a creative partner that supersedes you actually in the speed and the level of creativity it can have. But then you are the one who's still in the curational kind of role to make sure it's actually the right one, the right solution for the right site.
Thank you so much for that. What's the biggest challenge in integrating AI into your creative process? Was there a moment where the technology didn't deliver what you expected? And where do your team struggle to adapt? Is there any way your team actually struggle to adapt?
Yeah, I think number one, the development in AI is really fast, right? So you're not like an architecture firm anymore. You're actually an entrepreneur because you're dealing with constantly changing tools that you have to put into your more standardized process. And then sometimes, right, it feels like you achieve really, really good results and everyone is excited. And then you do some prompting mistakes and then nothing comes out of it. And then the team response is almost like, oh, let's do it the way how we have done it before, right? Because there's like a little bit of a comfort in it. But then you have to remind everyone, it's like, no, this is a journey we're on. Let's work rather on making the new process better that becomes more predictable versus going back to the old one, which is outdated. But in general, I mean, I have a very curious team. So everyone is pushing the same direction.
All right. Thank you so much about that. Okay, let's talk about beautiful side of innovation. You are not just creating beautiful building. You're running a business, and definitely every business wants to grow and scale. How is this AI-driven approach to architecture or to your entrepreneurship specifically affecting your business in terms of growth and scaling? Are you able to take more projects, attract different types of clients, and you still compete in multiple ways that you actually want to compete?
Yeah, we're doing exactly all of that, what you just mentioned. So we're basically doing more work with different clients, additional scopes, and also new territories and new topologies. And that is, for me, the exciting thing about it is if you actually understand AI not just as a tool to make the things that you have done before maybe more efficient, faster, but to really use it as almost like a whiteboard of new opportunities. And you let actually the experience with the tool, it kind of just absorb in your work and with your curiosity, see where else you can go with it. Then I think it is very powerful for us architects. But I think we have to be very open that it will actually create a lot of efficiencies that normally architects have done. That means there will be less work for architects. However, if we actually expand the horizon, for example, also into the fabrication of buildings, the construction, maybe we get involved into the AI robotics because the building's going to be designed and built differently, or we're getting into the tools and the softwares and we actually support the kind of development of it. There's like a big range of work that we can do, but we just have to be aware it's not the same that we have done before.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. But where do you want to see Harkins grow in the next 12 months? Not necessarily in terms of revenue, but in terms of the project you're handling, the people you're working with, in terms of what your 12-month goals that you actually want to see.
Yeah, so for the last 3 years, we explored a lot of these different tools. And every year, we start the year with new explorations to figure out what else has changed and what we can absorb here and there. But now for us, the conversation becomes much more about the change of the result that we're generating. That means it's not anymore, the change of the process. It's actually now we have a new architectural ideology or opportunity that we can create through these tools. And that's what I will be very busy with defining that for the firm. What I love about AI is the kind of deep-rooted contextual knowledge that you can generate. And in the end, when you look into what the general public really likes is when you are in a city that has a very strong identity that comes out of the work, the people, but also the architecture that are happening within a city. And to make sure that a city like New York looks very different than Chicago, is very different than Austin, is different than Dubai, so that every one of these different places are getting stronger in their identity, but also more different than the competing cities or the neighboring cities. And that's kind of what I feel now AI can really help us with. And I talked to one of the urban planners in a city in Germany, and I suggested that we could actually create prompts which are city specific, where then the planning department gives that to architects and say, like, look, these are the prompts that need to be basis of your design, because we want to honor the heritage of our place. And the city I talk about is Heidelberg, right, which has a very strong historic core, and you want to use that core to inform the buildings around it. And you don't want to have buildings come from an architect who just had like a vision to be different, or maybe just want to do his own thing, or maybe has a misplaced kind of understanding of an aesthetic that doesn't fit in, or doesn't really make a lot of sense. With this kind of processes, you can actually change also what a city is giving architects as a guidance.
Fantastic. Out of curiosity, I would like to know, who are the people that you serve? So who are your ideal clients? Is it government? Is it private? Is it both? And is it, Fortune 500, or it could also be small business owners?
Yeah, currently, I mean, we have a good mix, but it's mostly still developers who are on a scale, I would say, less corporate, where basically the head of a real estate company can make decisions, because you need people who also embrace the kind of newness that we are presenting. And when you're in a corporation, everyone has a little bit fear. They make the wrong decisions based on who's above them. And so it's very important for us that we always talk to the head of the company, and they make decisions with us. But we're also working with a big university, but it has a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. And that fits, of course, also very much into our culture. So we just have to make sure that we are aligned with the same values with the clients that we're working with.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I want to ask if there are other architecture company, architecture firm out there that are listening and maybe watching this at one stage, and maybe they were just like surprised to hear from you that there are multiple ways you could use AI, that will change the dynamics of the way they operate. What advice will you be giving them?
I would say go onto a journey, be curious about it, empower your youngest people in your firm to actually propose and suggest and experiment with these kind of new tools, because you want to create a ground-up culture and not a top-down culture for these kind of innovations. I mean, don't be afraid of it, because this is like a moment where we are shaping a future that will last for a very long time. And architects normally have a pretty good sense of duty and responsibility. And I think we are the right people to actually shape these tools for the better environments that we have to create or want to create for the people who live in our buildings. And let's not surrender to corporations. I think we have to keep that kind of entrepreneurial, responsible spirit in the architectural design world.
Said, thank you so much for the advice. Matthias, I think you are so incredible in terms of the conversation we had. And I know that everyone and anyone that will listen definitely, we pick one or two things, especially even for me myself. I find it really interesting that I see people already using AI at the level that you're using it for architecture. Sometimes these are some of the industry that people don't talk about a lot, because it looks like nothing much is going on. They're just going about their design and then submitting it and then they move on. But the fact that you're able to use it in a sophisticated manner, that you describe, I think really, really incredible. And I know that a lot of people will benefit from that. But before we wrap up, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they want to connect with you, and probably they want you to share more about the tools that you use, the way you use it, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can just send an email to my office under hi, that's HI, at HWKN.com. And that email is going to reach me and I will answer it.
All right. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn, but don't send me a message there. I never respond.
All right.
But you find me probably under my last name is Hollwich. So that's Hollwich. And every 3 months I do answer all the email messages. So just bear with me. I will get to it.
All right. So the best way is to email you. Okay.
Yes, please.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming through. We really do appreciate your sharing your insight with our audience and your work that you're doing. And we can only say we wish you well in your future endeavors. Thank you so much for coming through.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and very excited that I was part of this conversation.
All right. Thank you.
You didn't quit your day job to become a full-time admin assistant. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you didn't start your business to spend 60 hours a week on paperwork, chasing leads, and managing endless admin tasks. You started it to build something meaningful and serve your clients. But right now, you're trapped in the day-to-day grind instead of growing your business. What if I told you our clients are reclaiming 15, 20 hours per week, increasing their revenue by 30 to 50% within 6, 12 months, and finally getting their lives back? We don't just automate random tasks. We build custom AI systems that eliminate the bottlenecks choking your growth, from leads generation to lead, nurturing and management to project management to client follow-ups. Stop paying for an expensive, frustrating manual system. It's time to upgrade to strategic automation. Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free business transformation strategy call today. Discover exactly how much time and money you're losing to manual processes and how to get both back. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Intelligence Forge, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode packed with game-changing insights. Your future automated business is waiting.